Let's go now. A little life out here. What the hell's going on out here? Hey, what about that now?
Hello everybody, welcome to the UK Packers podcast. As usual, I'm your host at Steve Diddy NFL on Twitter, and of course follow the group at UK Packers. Oh, putting the lol in SKLOL. What an absolute embarrassing performance. I'm just going to start off this podcast and say that JJ McCarthy is exactly who we thought he was. Absolute garbage. And the defense dominated, and when you put the two of those things together, we come away with a win. And I just want to call that out from the top, because you'd look at this game, here's a guy, you'd look at this game and you'd go, oh, well, our defense are next level and, you know, they're going to beat everybody. Our defense are damn good. They're incredible, right? But there was alarming things that happened at the beginning of that game where, you know, they had 7 consecutive runs on us. You can run on this defense if you protect your quarterback and give him time. Your wide receivers can get separation and they can complete passes. This is a mixture of, as my phone absolutely blows up, this is a mixture of just really god-awful offense from the Vikings, which is a couple of games on the trot now. JJ McCarthy is not it. And in fact, it was nauseating listening to the comms banging on about, oh, well, you know, he's got, what was one of the things they said? Oh, he said he's the best quarterback pre-snap, but it's the post-snap stuff he needs to work on. What are we talking about? You know? That's like saying this Formula 1 driver is amazing outside the car. I mean, he dresses sharp, his helmet is absolutely on point, but, you know, his driving's not that great. It's, give me a break. And yes, he's arm talented. Another thing that they were saying is like, you know, his wide receivers have got the biggest drop rate, and that's because he throws the ball so hard. No, he's inaccurate, and he makes bad decisions, and he dumps the ball off, and he freaks out, and he gets sacked a lot. And then couple that with the fact that our defense are marauding, particularly in the second half. And the thing is, and this one I want to call out from the very beginning, because can you, even though it's 2 minutes into it now, but there's still people moaning online about this Packers performance, right? It's become a derangement, really, about banging on about this coaching staff. And I just want to stress, this is real life and this is not Madden, right? You can't, just because the other team offensively are bad, and it's like nothing's taken into account. And that's why I put out, I tried to put stuff into context, right? The Packers won this game 23-6. And the 6 points that the Vikings did score were on a 52-yarder and a 59-yarder. And that 59-yarder is the second longest field goal in the history of Lambeau Field. The storied Lambeau Field. And I know some people like to go on like that goes back to 1919. It doesn't. It goes back to the 50s when it was built. Right? So that'll put it into perspective for you. The only points that the Vikings could actually get were on desperation kicks. Coupled with the fact that we didn't have our wide receiver number 1 in Jaden Reed, and you'll get all the people out there moaning about that as well, saying that it's Christian Watson or it's Romeo Doubs. And Romeo Doubs is our wide receiver number 1. We didn't have a legit, you know, Calvin Megatron Johnson called out as wide receiver number 1, but Jaden Reed assumed that role last year. And you can easily forget just how absolutely dynamite he is as a player. Sure hands, great routes. So he's our wide receiver number 1. You can leave that out of this argument if you want to. He's just a wide receiver for you, right? So we're without Jaden Reed, arguably wide receiver number 1. We're without Matthew Golden, and you might go, oh, well, he hasn't done a lot this year, blah, blah, blah. He's been very important for stretching the field, pulling defensive coverage, and giving us an option. We're without Josh Jacobs, our running back number 1, although Emmanuel Wilson absolutely played the part this game. And we're without our centre in Elton Jenkins. And there was a ball that happened in this game. There's a couple of high snaps. One of them was a high snap, and Emmanuel Wilson got blown up in the backfield. You know, which was very impactful because it just caused that delay. It was also a blown up play. I don't think anything would have really happened with it, but it's impactful. And then Tucker Kraft, the Yak King, which again, he's handed that over to Emmanuel Wilson, who was absolutely outstanding in this game. And as was Chris Brooks, both in his blocking and just doing the sort of legwork that he was required to do. So we're without our tight end number 1. Not to mention on the defensive side of the ball, we're without Quay Walker, which, you know, didn't bat an eyelid at. I'm just going to stress the point. This is not Madden. Those things matter. Weather matters. Form matters. Injuries matter. Jordan Love was obviously carrying some sort of an injury because he was handing the ball off with his opposite hand, which was very unusual. So there's definitely something going on there as well. And like I've said about people, and again, I'm not, if you listen to the podcast, if this is your first one, welcome. If it's not, well then I'm just going to repeat the same old nonsense that I've been doing, right? And most of you people are probably, maybe you agree with me and go, look, why do you keep saying this to us, Steve? You're preaching to the choir here. We feel the same as you do. Or, maybe if you don't, maybe you just don't listen to the podcast anymore. I don't know. But this wholesale call to sort of to sack off the coaching staff as if you can just get anybody else in and they're going to do a great job. It just doesn't make sense to me. And again, why do I raise it? Because it was such a great game, and I'm going to get on to all the positives. But people are moaning in this game that Matt LaFleur should have put up extra points. And you might go, well, like, Steve, you're making up these narratives for... No, I see all of this stuff and I only comment on the real things that I see. I'm not one of those people who go, people always ask me when it's something that I want to say and I pretend that people ask me, right? So I put out the fact that, great game, closed it out, ran the hell out of it at the end. Happy days. Off we go, on to the next one. And someone got back and said we could have had 40 plus plays had we been more aggressive. Listen, we've got a game in 4 days against the Lions. We've got a tough 3-game stretch against divisional opponents, being the Vikings, who we've slain, the Lions on Thanksgiving, and then also the Bears. And the game that we really need to focus on, actually, funnily enough, is the Bears, because they're after beating the Steelers. So if you want to live in La La Land, you're going to go on and say, oh, well, we should have put up all these points. And who are we throwing to at this rate? Fitzpatrick, the tight end, was in there. Wiley was in there. It's not as if we have an abundance of people who can catch the ball at the minute. Now, I know we've Christian Watson and we've Dontavian Wicks. And there was a couple of the plays in this game where Dontavian Wicks in one of them. Now, it's a very, very difficult catch, right? And again, I'm not going to sort of preach and say this is not Madden and then expect a wide receiver to come down with absolutely Madden-style catch. That makes no sense against physics. However... Jordan Love threw the ball. It was a bit of a wing and a prayer, and it hit Dontavian Wicks right in the face, and it was on 3rd down. So there was catchable balls out there, right? So, I mean, the attitude to this game and how a coach will prepare for this game, as I move around in my chair, is that they will... I mean, these are vital, these games, because they're against the NFC North, so you need to win these, top your division, and then that way you make the playoffs and you're guaranteed, right? So that's all they want to do here, is win these 3 games by hook or by crook. And when you keep the opposing offense to 2 desperation field goals and then you just sack them and intercept them the whole time after that, you're not worried about having to surmount or be aggressive. So you just run the ball. You just run out the clock, live to see another day. But of course, that isn't... people ignore the injuries. They ignore the fact that we don't have our first stringers. They overplay the role our defense made against this woeful offense. The defense played great, but calling it as it is... They're playing against an absolutely atrocious offense. So those 2 factors mixed together, you're going to feast. And it's great. Will the defense play that well against everybody? No. Have they been consistent all season, playing pretty well? You're damn right. But again, we gave up 40 against the Dallas Cowboys. So this defense, you can do certain things to it. And certainly early on, Vikings were running on us and they were getting chunk yardage for a while. But then we shut that down, and credit to our defense, And there's a couple of big players in that. I want to call out the positivities, but like I will say, this is not Madden. They will go in and say, if we have a comfortable lead, kick your field goal, get your points, and get the hell off the field. Why bother trying to get an extra whatever when you really don't need it? I mean, look at the score, 23-6. We'd so much to spare in this game where it wasn't as if you were trying to stay ahead. You have to adapt to the moment. You do what you need to do. And again, not me being a bootlicker or LaFleur apologist. I just think that, we did exactly as we needed to do. Honourable shout-outs in this game. Isaiah McDuffie has to be number 1. And I know this is blasphemous because really I want to call out Daniel Whelan, but I'm trying to keep that down so I'm not too biased. Isaiah McDuffie was absolutely outstanding in this game. There was one really important play, and again, it's not going to be seen as... And I asked the Packers on social media if they could post it again. But just absolutely outstanding. I mean, first off, he got a sack, which pushed them outside field goal range. They ended up making the 59-yarder anyway, but, that's not against the Packers defense. They did exactly what they needed to do. It's the second longest field goal in Packers history. But there was one where Hawkinson, it was 3rd and 1. and Hawkinson was making the run, and he got a no gain because McDuffie was on the ground on his back, underneath a pile of bodies, reached up his hand and got to Hawkinson to bring up a 4th and 1. Mason went for a run and Enig came in and did a fantastic job. This was the drive I was telling you about where they got ran all over. It was a pass to Jefferson for 7 yards. That's the one where Nixon got knocked out by literally just running into Devontae White as he stood there. You know, one of those things where your kids are fighting and one of them starts crying and then they go, "What did you do?" And your kid goes, "Nothing." Like, that's actually what Devontae White did. It's not a laughing matter because Nixon got knocked out. I'm not saying that. Don't be a ghoul if you're trying to make it out that I'm being disrespectful, right? But it's just bananas how big these gentlemen are. And I would imagine had it been me, I would have been carted off, not in a stretcher, but in a wooden box. But then there was 5 consecutive runs for 4 yards, 4 yards, 22 yards because Valentine missed and Evan Williams got pinned inside. Then an 8-yard run, 4-yard run, 4-yard pass, 5-yard run, and then it got to 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, and the Packers came away with it with McDuffie's tackle. So again, this is what I'm saying. I mean, nothing is perfect, right? But the Packers absolutely did enough, and Hafley should get his flowers. I absolutely hate the fact that they keep linking Hafley with head coaching jobs. Do I think it's deserved? Well, I mean, his defense is great, but does that always mean? Does a good teacher always have to be a principal? You know, can he not be happy as a teacher for what? I'm saying this because I want Hafley to stay. He's a fantastic guy, fantastic coach, fantastic at the podium and communication. But all of these calls for him to take over from LaFleur and all of these calls for him to take over as a head coach, let's look at, well, let's not do it, but, you know, just dive into how defensive-minded coaches actually do in the NFL. I mean, putting Hafley in charge of the Packers, who are struggling on offense, according to some. What's Hafley going to do to save the offense? You might say, well, he's going to get offensive coordinator, Steve, maybe, right? Anyway, we're moving on. We're sounding like a broken record. As I said, the outstanding part in all of this is just the absolutely atrocious play by McCarthy. It was obvious from the very beginning that the Vikings were going to give the ball to Jones and to Mason, and they did really well. And then outside of that, then, you know, they really couldn't get out and going. Justin Jefferson did get the ball, but almost in spite of the quarterback play. I mean, there was one where it was just over the hands, I believe, of McKinney or Valentine, and then got to Jefferson, who goes to ground. But, you know, this is a quarterback, despite what the comms were banging on about, this is a quarterback who's out there apologising to his teammates and thanking them for being, you know, sort of gracious with him and not throwing their toys out of the pram. And look, the Packers offense wasn't perfect by any means on the night. Wilson and Watson were absolutely incredible. When the Packers got that touchdown, which was a Wilson touchdown on their first offensive drive, really set the tone. But again, we started off with a no-gainer, you know, and then it's 2 passes, one on a check down, which means the play broken down. That was a 7-yarder to Wilson. Then Watson comes down with 12 yards, and then Wicks comes down with 18 yards and a 2nd and 6, and we end up with that touchdown. So, and again, it helped as well that we had Musgrave get the DPI in 24 yards. Musgrave had an absolute mare of a game, the last one. I mean, he left every ball on the ground. In fact, there was one in this game, it was probably on the second drive, was it? It was, yeah. So it was a 2nd and 10, past the Musgrave. It was a low ball, desperation style, and it looked like the defender knocked the ball away, but absolutely didn't. It went in and out of the hands of Musgrave again, so he's not sort of lighting himself up. But he redeemed himself, I feel, and played a big part later in this game, so I don't think we can be too hard on him. But this is what I'm talking about, where it's not Madden. It takes every player to do something in this game to get this game where it needs to be. I mean, on that 3rd and 3, on the first offensive drive for the Packers, the snap comes out high again, and it's 3rd down, and the Packers are the best team in the NFL on 3rd down. You can look at that 2 ways. Number one, why are we letting it get to 3rd down and having to do these plays? But then you look at it on the positive side of things and say, well, Jordan Love or Matt LaFleur is cooking up something, and they're getting that done and getting people open, which is great. So Christian Watson came down with 12 yards, which was great. So touchdown on the first one. You know, the second offensive drive, nothing really to go home about. I mean, Fitzpatrick comes down with the ball, and then all of a sudden he does a false start. I believe that was that drive. Love gets sacked. Just a bad drive. 2 incomplete deep shots to Watson that were never on. Didn't help by Musgrave not catching the ball. Didn't help by Fitz false starting. And this is the type of thing of like the lack of aggression and these sort of stuttery drives come back and bite you in the ass when you're not playing well or you're playing against a high-powered offense on the opposite side and you need to keep up. But like I said, this is not Madden. You don't play inside of a vacuum, right? The fact that our defense were getting the job done means that you can maintain your game plan. And the problem really is when you're, and again, for a very long time, up until the second half, it was like 10-6, which you'd look at it and go, but it never seemed uncomfortable to me. Can we talk about Daniel? And I have effing Whelan in my notes here. Just absolutely incredible. Booming punts. It doesn't matter if we're backed up in our own end zone. Daniel Whelan always gets off a 60-plus yarder. It's always spinning in a really awkward way. And that happened on the Packers' fourth offensive drive. Run for 3 yards, pass for 11 yards, quarterback run by Love for 13 yards, keeping the play alive. And then it all starts to move backwards. I mean, it's a -1 yard Wilson run stuff, a backwards Brooks pass for -4 yards, an incomplete pass to Wicks, and it looks like just a dodgy drive to start the second half. Not how you want to do it. You'd expect this to be scripted. And then it's a muffed punt. Daniel Whelan puts the ball up. The Vikings player decides to header the ball, European style, and then they come down with it. And just to see Daniel Whelan celebrate, he is a revelation. And this is what I'm talking about, is that if you're not looking at the kickers all around the league and seeing what they're doing, an honourable shout out to the Vikings punter. He was fantastic as well. But Daniel Whelan is MVP style. I'm straight on after the game, as I fumble over myself. So I don't know if he's got the game ball, but he damn well should, and I guarantee he will once I get off this. And it was just that score. Again, another Wilson touchdown on 1st and goal. Then it goes to, I think it was 2nd and goal, because Wilson comes up with 4 yards on the first one, puts the game at 17-6. Always seemed comfortable after that, especially because the Packers come out, Micah Parsons gets a sack, Hawkinson, gains 9 yards from 2 plays, but they've already been pushed back by the sack. And it just ruins it. And then the Packers offense come out again. We get a bit of chunk yardage with an 11-yard pass to Watson, 6-yard run to Wilson, but then he gets stuffed for -2 yards. We punt it away again. Defense comes out again. Almost 2 safeties. Run stuff for -1 yards. Evan Williams on the tackle. Amazing. A sack by Micah Parsons for -5 yards. It looks like he's almost got the safety. And then a sack by Devontae Wyatt. Wyatt had 2 sacks on the night. Again, honourable mention to Devontae Wyatt and to Evan Williams for coming down with that interception. Because it's easy to say, because Rashan Gary got the disturbance in the force against McCarthy later in the game, which caused that ball to come out wonky. It's the technical term. And then Evan Williams comes down with the ball. And it's easy to say, well, Steve, he was throwing the ball, right? Easy peasy. But we've seen from last week, there was 5 potential interceptions, of which the Packers came down with 1. So look, and even on that Devontae Wyatt sack on the 6th defensive stand for the Packers, that was Micah Parsons up the middle, absolutely disrupting stuff again. And from here on out, it was just game management for the Packers. And you have to be able to acknowledge that, right? The Packers are not going to take deep shots that are fall incomplete, which stop the clock. They're going to run down that clock, and I believe one of the drives was 7-8 minutes long. So the Packers offense come out, 12-yard run, 6-yard run, 8-yard run, 11-yard run, 3-yard run, 4, all by Wilson, by the way, 4-yard run by Brooks. Wilson gets run stuffed in 3rd and 3. No major deal, 30-yard field goal made. Packers move to 20-6. This is perfect game management. And then Packers offense come out again. It's a pass for 11 yards to Fitzpatrick. Actually, this is the one with the false start on Fitzpatrick. Watson comes down with 11 yards. So apart from 2 kind of 11-yard catches, there's nothing really doing on this drive. We had good field position because of where the defense left us. And Dobbs with the nice catch and nice gain. And again, another field goal, 40-yard field goal. Special teams was something that let us down the last time. Packers go up 23-6. And then the Packers defense come out again, and within the first play, it's a McDuffie interception. I'm mixing myself up. This is what happens when you get on straight after the game. I get on with my calling out the plays and all this type of stuff, and I just see that I'm after fumbling the bag here. So the Rashan Gary interference in the force ended up with a McDuffie interception and not an Evan Williams. Again, massive shout out to McDuffie. We have started the Isaiah McDuffie UK and Irish Packers fan club. It's sort of as a splinter group. Absolutely fantastic. But this is what I mean. The Packers offense came out, run for no game, run for 1 yard, timeout for Green Bay on a 3rd and 9, pass for Wicks, and this literally hits him in the face. and he doesn't come down with the ball. But again, not everything can be perfect. We can't have that expectation. Packers defense come out, and this is where Evan Williams, I misspoke earlier, gets his interception. McDuffie as well makes a nice tackle on this. Willis comes in for Love. Brooks runs and gets 10 yards on 2nd and 9. Beautiful. And this quarterback sneak for Willis on 3rd and 1. Kneels down, game over. This is perfect game management to me. No one got injured. Emmanuel Wilson. I mean, if there was anyone that was going to get injured, it was Emmanuel Wilson, right? Because he was running hard. And an awful lot of the stuff that he did in this game was, on second effort as well, which was absolutely amazing. The stat I enjoyed the most, though, about this game is that the defense held their offense to 4 yards in the second half. Outstanding by the defense, affording your offense time to just run this game out. We got 2 field goals on the back of that hard running. That's all you need. You don't need to be throwing the ball. You don't need the ball falling dead and then prolonging this game or making it a bit more ropey, because remember, at the half, it was 10-6. So, agree with it or don't agree with it. In 4 days' time, we've got the Lions to play, who are going to be pretty ticked off and want to get the bit between their teeth. At the time of recording this podcast, they're after going up on the Giants despite being down. So when we said, how about them Giants? Well, how about them Giants? So it just makes the NFC North sort of very condensed, and there's one game between everybody, apart from the Vikings, because they suck. And so we need to keep up this momentum. We need to go and get a result against the Lions on Thanksgiving, and then have a little bit of extra time then to come back to play that game against the Bears and to see what happens there. So onwards and upwards, nothing to complain about. Offense did exactly what they needed to do, especially with the lack of talent, and that cannot be understated. You didn't have your wide receiver number 1, running back number 1, center number 1, tight end number 1, and Matthew Golden. Absolutely delighted we got the result that we did. I'm just disappointed. The only thing I'm disappointed about is that we didn't get to 27, the magic 27 points, because that's what I said during the game as well. Let's get to 27 and let's just turn the lights off and head off. So yes, 2 desperation field goals, the second longest in Lambeau history for the Vikings, and they look in absolute halfpenny's place. And it is bizarre when you look at the graphics too, that the Vikings, were topping last year, and then the Lions, and then us, and then the Bears, and now it's the Bears topping us in second, the Lions in third, and the Vikings in fourth. Just a bizarre turn of events. But look, it is what it is. And hopefully, when you look at our results as well, you're bolstered by looking around after the fact and seeing what the Giants tried to put up on Detroit, or what the Browns did to teams, or what the Eagles have done to teams. And go, do you know what? In hindsight, all of this stuff isn't that bad. But it's a great time to be a Packers fan. There's no absolute obvious weaknesses here where there's a position group that just are not performing, outside of the obvious negatives, which is injury. I'm happy about it. Tell me if you're happy about it, right? I don't care about engagement farming. It's not like leave your favourite emoji under this podcast post. Whatever, right? Do what you want. Email me at info@ukpackers.co.uk. I always love hearing from people. Send us a DM. If you have my number, text me. And let's talk Packers. And hopefully, and again, I haven't heard back from the venue still. I'm trying to get that meetup, which is a little bit harder now, which is for the Bears game, because they flexed it to 9:25, which means that, we need to be in that venue after midnight of a Sunday. So I don't know if they can do it. So that might add extra complications. But if there's anything that happens towards the playoff style, and I'm hoping that the Packers will host some official parties, we're all in on that as well. But anyway, it's great to be here on the podcast. It's great for all of you to listen and give me your feedback. Hopefully the boo birds are all starting to dissipate for now. And I'll be back to preview the game on Quick Snaps for the next podcast. But until then, it's a Go Pack Go.